What's going on, everybody?
We're
We
live.
are fucking staying alive like the Bee Gees.
Yes.
Yes. Word.
So can I tell y'all something really cool real quick? Because I don't want to claim this on the fucking podcast.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are again. We're live. Because I had gone live, and then you were like, huh?
Oh, it's like,
158.
oh, tell y'all something.
Today is episode 158. I actually caught up to episode 157, so for all the people who don't catch us live, you're updated. Rue and I have been plagued by the crud, so we've just kind of been, but we're here. But I was able to catch up on some shit yesterday through my brain fog. I was like, I have to do something productive. Let me just. Okay, it's done. The thing is done. But yeah, today is episode 158. And wow, it's been a doozy since we've last recorded.
Laugh.
Gucci
got Gucci.
Yeah. Rue's got designer bags under their eyes.
It's all we can manage. It's a very weird, kind of exhausted, but somehow maniacal laugh.
Yeah, because it's like, try me.
That too.
Anyone else feel like they're getting weirdly accelerationist like me? Because I'm over here like, Trump tore down the American empire more than I ever could.
So it's bizarre. I'm not gonna lie, because like I've spent a lot of my life, like, I vote, right? Am I really ever thrilled about the political candidate choices? No, I'm really never thrilled about them, because everything is all about just maintaining the status quo and making sure the rich stay rich and whatever, but like, I try to at least vote for the candidate that has the policies that align with what I need and want in my life, right? I always fucking vote, because if you don't vote, you can't fucking complain, okay? If you can vote and you don't vote, you can't fucking complain.
Voting is harm reduction.
Huh?
If you don't think voting is going to do anything, just remember, it's harm reduction. It's not meant to fucking change the goddamn world. It's to make sure that you don't end up with shit like this.
Correct. And so, I hope the only and that's where like that sort of like the ha 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 like kind of comes in, because it's like, we fucking told you. We told you. We told you, we told you, we told you. And now it's just like,
well, Project 2025 isn't real, they said.
Oh, hurdy dirty dirt.
Oh, I know, and then he's like doing it like verbatim.
Right. Now, I know that like, I've seen everything, right? So we know that this is a tactic. We know that they're just bombarding us with every fucking thing that they can, because that's the goal, right? Is to murder us under all this bullshittery, so that way we give up and go, okay, I'm sorry, we'll just obey. But a lot of it is illegal. A lot of it is not. The government is in fucking chaos. And the thing is, though, is that the politicians, like, now it's time to do your fucking jobs. Do your fucking jobs.
Some of them are.
I've
seen a few really fucking being vocal about it. I'm like, that person, you're going to go down in history.
Yeah, and it's the majority of the women, too, I've noticed. Most of our women politicians are
Shout
the
out
most
to
vocal.
AOC, Elon, and Omar, like, seriously.
There's also this one
Jasmine
dude,
Crockett.
I don't know his name, but fuck, he was saying some real seething shit. He's like, oh yeah, there was nothing we could do to stop this. Nothing at all. Like, just like, oh man, he was spitting fire. And I was like, I really wish I knew this guy's name. But yeah, it's like a handful of them.
Yeah. So But and then there's also politicians that are just like going along with the flow, such as John Fettermaga. That piece of shit. You might as well just switch parties, you motherfucker, and just get the fucking thing tattooed on your head already. You already look like one, so let's go.
I was had by him. I won't lie.
We all were. We all.
Oh,
were.
I'm
I
infuriated.
want to duly noted. I don't. Huh?
Sorry, I'm infuriated by him because, like, he was like burning for me.
I will say this. I mean, I always look at South Philly men with suspicion in general,
Shifty
because
eyes.
I know how South Philly men are, and I was raised here, and it was always a little bit too good to be true to have a middle-aged South Philly guy not be like just idiot MAGA for no reason, kind of, whatever bullshit.
Mhm.
And I was kind of always like, okay. I mean, like, I'm really shocked, but like, cool,
Like, I'll take
I
it.
mean, and every once in a while, there's like a really cool South Philly guy who's like, who remembers our fight for unions, who
Mhm.
Remembers what it was like in Philadelphia, um before what you call it, before whiteness, before Italians were quote unquote allowed to be white and shit like that. So like,
Right.
some of them remember, and some of them were like, no, like, these marginalized people are my family. I'm going to fight with those people, but they're a very small portion of them now, and I'm always very sort of surprised and apprehensive when I find it, like in Fetterman. And I won't lie and say that I was particularly shocked.
No.
I mean, he kind of did what I already was a little suspicious that he would do anyway. But I voted for him because I was like, what if you're real? What if you have the tenacity that should come with somebody from where I live? We're very tenacious here in South Philly. We're very we're not pushovers. I was hoping that would be, but instead he he bent the knee very quickly and sold us all out.
Also, how in the world were any of us going to vote for Mehmet Oz?
Right.
Honestly, that was our options.
Right.
Fetterman or Dr. Oz? No.
Right.
There's no contest.
Dr. Oz is like, he's, if I'm not mistaken, he was also one of those people who basically says like poor people it's their fault that poor people are poor. If you worked harder, this country will, if you worked harder.
I don't think he's actually even a doctor.
He's has so many. No, he's not anymore.
No, he's not.
He had so many he's buried under so many fucking lawsuits.
I was gonna say, I think he had his medical license revoked at some point.
Did. Yes, he did. Very much so.
So, Doc Oz, quote unquote.
I have something to say about this, though. As dark as it sounds right now, there is one very, very, very fantastic silver lining. I'm not an accelerationist, right? But like a friend of mine was asking me how things could go back to the way that they were. And my very simple answer to him was they can't. The social contract's been so violated, intrinsically broken, that there's no way to go back to what society previously was. If we manage to put shit back together in the context that we have it now, we're not going to be making the society we had before. We're going to be making something new, right? We're going to be like doing it with what we want out of it. Because like the old society was not working for any of us, fucking any of us. And we're sick of it. We're sick of getting fucked by it. If we manage to literally overthrow oligarchs and like techno-fascists trying to steal our society, do you really think we can ever go back to what we had before? It's just not going to happen, right? The old world is entirely, thoroughly dead and killed in a way that I feel like we as activists would have really struggled to do. The problem is right now that they're making a power play to try and grab all this stuff, and it looks really fucking scary, right? And it is, right? Because if they succeed, like literally goodbye freedom, right? But at the same time, these people are ruthlessly incompetent and they can't even work together with each other without turning on each other, right?
That is proving to be very true.
And the fact that they are so, the thing is, they're emboldened, they're arrogant. When they won this election, they really thought we have it and we can just make all of our moves now. Like, there's a reason everybody's being so mask off, right? The old social contract is so thoroughly destroyed that the billionaires are all competing right now to see who gets to be the kings of the new world, right?
Right.
And that's why everyone's rallying behind power. But if they fail, and they're going to fucking fail, they're not smart enough to do it, and it's just one nation, right? You really think the entirety of the world powers are going to let these fuckers just turn around and like, because like, real talk, if they take control of America, Canada's next, because the strategic oil reserves that y'all actually need to go to war is in Canada. Anybody who says that they're going to be going to war with Mexico or Panama or any of that shit first,
Nah,
it's
the
just not
oil's in
true.
Canada.
They'll go to war with Canada. Yes,
Yeah,
they will.
yeah.
They'll attack Ontario to cause a mass distraction and a mass amount of casualties, and they will air raid the fuck out of the prairies and destroy every single targeted air base in Canada that they can, and they will seize Red Deer and Fort St. John and the oil fields and all of Alberta and the prairies, and they'll lock down the strategic oil reserves in Canada, which is why they want Canada so much. And if you really like know a lot about this, they can't even really go to war with Mexico without us shutting off the oil reserves, right? So if they do that, then they're actually going to want to go to war with Canada first. So don't buy the lies. What they're actually doing is giving you pretext for actually invading Canada by force, because like, you just realistically, military supply wise, can't fucking take Mexico without having Canada behind you.
Yeah, because you need the resources.
Or any of the other ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
so,
and you know, and like I don't even want to even go there, you know, like just in my own mental process. Like I want World War III to be a war of the words, not a war of actual like weapons. You know what I mean?
That would be nice.
Let it be a war of the words. We have the technology now. We don't have to keep firing off our boom sticks at each other anymore. We don't need to do that. Will it? I really don't know. I don't have the crystal ball on this, and also we're all too close to it to really divine what will happen. You know, but I further that sentiment of they are eating each other. They do not play nice together. And so within a magical current energy, whatever the fuck work that you do, capitalize off of that. Use that to your advantage. Manipulate that. Put them in a cage. Put them in your freezer. Push them closer to each other.
Put them in a jar.
Put them in a jar. You know, shake them up. They don't like each other. It's very obvious. Trump only is doing what he's doing because he's just a narcissist. He just wants people to worship him. That's really what it is. He hates the Democrats because they wouldn't accept him in the party. They're like, oh, we don't want you, dude. And I'm going to become a Republican then. I'm going to be president. Like, that's literally what this is. This is a child temper tantrum, except it's magnified by wealth and power and all of this shit.
And malignant narcissism.
And malignant fucking narcissism in fucking deed. And that's where we circle back to the
a lot of flaccid creepy energy coming from him.
What'd you say, Sophia?
A lot of flaccid peepee energy coming from him.
Yes, most definitely.
Yep. I mean,
Scott.
I was just gonna say, I like to think that like I keep kind of cresting in and out of like, you know, unbridled rage and like calm, which I think is like it's good. I'm happy with where I'm at. Like suddenly I become like, I find this like is this place of acceptance, and I'm like keep pushing forward, you know, be as visible as possible in the next 4 years, and then it's like suddenly it turns into like the most depraved like parts of myself where I'm like, can we
rip their throats out
with
my teeth?
Which I don't like, and when I say them, you know, I'm not talking about anyone particular. But
just whoever tries it. The next person who tries it gets it.
Real talk.
But
if somebody is threatening your nation, like I've been saying this so much. What the fuck's the Second Amendment for, right? Y'all are gonna have to use it or lose it at this point because they are going to take it the fuck away from you.
Yeah.
The only reason I said what I said was because I don't feel like having FBI agents at my door. And yes, they will come to your door. They have come to people's door for making threats. So
well, that's all. It's just, try it. Up around.
But like I try to
FAFO.
I try to keep myself in a place where my rage makes sense.
Right.
And that I'm putting it towards learning things about how to help people. I'm really working on for my school, I like to make sure that I know the rights of immigrants and people in this country, so that way I can, in that moment, I don't have like the cards printed that tell you, that they could hand off to the fucking Gestapo, aka ICE. And yeah, I don't have the cards yet. I do want to get them printed, but I'm trying to make sure that I remember like how to help people, you know what I mean? And that's what I try to put it towards. I keep rolling around in the mud with stupid people on the internet every once in a while. Not as often, but I'm trying to but it gets frustrating because like every post right now, like every post of like queer joy and queer happiness, whether it's like, a young trans kid whose family, does something really sweet for them to really validate them, or it's a gay couple getting proposing in a Build-A-Bear, whatever it may be. And when I tell you, like, yes, the Facebook and Instagram and Titter were always like vile, horrible places. Not that I'm on Titter anymore, but it's a lot worse. Like they have doubled down on like making sure that that we know that they like that we know that they think that we're disgusting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and it's funny because like they're showing their hand right now in the sense that like they don't care about the kids. They don't care about the sanctity of marriage. They don't care about any of this. What it is about they think that LGBTQ plus people are disgusting, and they want you to be quiet and go away forever.
Yeah.
And
money on the fucking spot, man. Always has been, always will be.
Right. It is just about, I don't like you and I want you to shut up while I suffocate you with a pillow. You know what I mean?
And it's like, honestly,
maybe that's my kink.
I feel the same way about them, but I'm just not that kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, do I want to suffocate you with a pillow? Abso-fucking-lutely. 1,000,000%. But that's only because you want to suffocate me with a pillow. I didn't want to suffocate you with a pillow at first. I just was like, hey man, you want some healthcare? I do too. Thanks. Right. And then they're like, die. What?
And our agenda.
My agenda
is
to wake the fuck up every day.
They're obsessed with.
We were like, hey, I would like to make your life better, and they're like, how dare you?
It's actually really funny. I do have kind of a little thing to interject here about this. So I was looking at some discourse on Facebook, right? So a friend of mine, a big figure in the pagan community, was making his usual posts about, fuck Trump and everything that he's doing. And some motherfucker comments like something to the effect of this. I
actually read that post. I can help you out here because I was scrolling through and I happened to happen upon the same post. And yeah, literally this guy said, if we didn't feel so bullied to accept trans people, then maybe we wouldn't have voted the way we did.
Yeah. Literally the best option was to vote for, he said in this, we knew he was a felon. The best option was to vote for a felon because we felt so bullied by trans people.
Yep. That's not the only person to say that. You don't know how many men I've seen who said, and this has been since the election, who've been like, I voted for him because he hates LGBTQ people. A lot of them have said it. I voted for him because he's going to get rid of queer people.
He's not.
The alphabet people, whatever they're calling us now.
You can't.
They love to call us the alphabet people.
Yeah, right. Whatever. Yeah, I like the alphabet mafia.
Because we labeled ourselves the alphabet mafia because everybody was too goddamn pissed off at LGBTQIA2S+.
Yeah.
I've like literally got a group of friends in Toronto that we low-key jokingly call the alphabet mafia because like there's like there was like 40 fucking trans women crammed into this goddamn tiny little apartment last Pride for like a party. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is the LGBT mafia.
That's it right there. That's it right there.
And
no one was fucking affected by that. Wow. 40 trans women gathered in an apartment and nothing.
Right.
We were.
No Trump. Did a Trump supporter like have a heart attack? Like queer joy. Oh.
You know, it's funny. It's funny because they try in Canada, and the one year I remember that they did try to come to Pride to fuck us up. They didn't even make it out of the mall that you exit the subway from before they got the shit kicked out of them.
Nice.
Like it. And if they do get the Pride and they see that there's like literally like 10,000 of us and like 5 to maybe a dozen, if you're really pushing it, 2 dozen of them, tell me how you think that's gonna go, bud. Against all these hyper fit queers who are just looking for a reason to bust your skull in on the pavement for trying to give them a hate crime. Like, they never succeed.
I think that's where a lot of us are at. You were saying, Scott?
No, I mean, I'm excited for Pride. Like, I'm really, really excited for Pride this year. I really just need to see that energy. I need to be in it again. I really, because I already know that like we are so energized as a global community. Like I've been talking to queer people from all over the world, Germany, UK, Malaysia. Like I have friends all over the world. And all of them are like, we're all rooting for you guys. Like we're here for you. You know, like it's really freaking cool that like queer people from all over the world are like, you know, we're here. You're not alone. You know, like it's awesome. And I think that globally we're energized. But I think Philadelphia, I think people here in Philly, like at least in my perspective, we have this thing about like wanting to protect Philadelphia.
We do.
Like we're like you're not taking this city. You know what I mean? You could, you know,
this
you
shit
can have
pile of a city.
We don't want you to have anything else, but you're not right. You're not taking this city.
Yeah.
And we like the one beautiful thing is like we've never like for instance like the one time back in like 2017 when the Proud Boys tried to march here, they were like 5 strong and like they dissipated in 2 seconds. You know, they don't come here because they know we're not going to play it. You know what I mean? They're not just going to walk in our streets and it's not going to be nice. The cops aren't just going to be like, oh no, like people are going to jump you and that's what's going to happen.
And the cops
and it's not just queer
care
people.
That much.
Huh?
Because like, especially like Philly cops now, like they really, ever since the George Floyd stuff was going on and all that stuff, there has been this sort of a little bit of a hands-off approach with Philly police. They really don't want to fuck with people as much as they did.
Yeah.
I've noticed. Yeah.
So, like, they're not good, you know, I'm just excited. To get back to what I was particularly talking about, though, is I'm excited for Pride. I'm excited to be around queer people in a space where we're all together. I'm excited, and I really think that it's going to happen this way. I'm really excited for them to really embrace the wonderful polarity of Pride, where it's both a protest and a celebration simultaneously. Yes. And I'm really excited to feel that energy, you know, of both celebration, of kind of shoving it in their face, you know, like you say we're doing it all the time anyway. Well, this is like the one time where we actually are, you know, and it's for a reason, you know, it's a protest.
If you think about
for our liberation, you know.
Yeah, like there are some.
Also, can I like?
Sure.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Scott, I was just gonna say, I've seen your workout videos that you posted online. Jesus Christ, you could probably bench press me.
Thank you.
Or at least you could squat me, guaranteed.
He can press.
Yeah. You could.
You can press J.
Yeah.
I
How
kind
much
of
can you
did it.
bench press right now?
My bench is still at 205.
Yeah, you could bench press me. I'm only at like 170 when I'm a little bit
Oh
heavier,
shit.
and when I'm lean and fit, I'm 160. You could
That's
easily bench press
easy.
me.
That is so
You
easy.
are stupendously strong. I just
Do
want
it
to
for
point
the
out.
Thank
gram.
you. But I totally bit it on the bench press the other day. I went to a new gym because I'm having some issues with Planet Fitness. They're just being assholes. And I was looking for a new gym, so I went to this place called Body World Fitness, and they're like an old
I'll tell you
school
why.
like 80s gym.
I'll tell you why they had a problem with Scott. So here's the thing: there's a huge anti fat people bias in gyms, and there's nothing they fucking hate more than watching somebody who's heavier absolutely kick ass and do more fucking weight than a lot of people. It really
I
grinds
thought
their
that too.
gears. Yeah, it really fucking grinds their gears because they expect you to flounder and fail to prove their sense of self-superiority, because a lot of them have this opinion that the average person's just weak and they'll never be able to do what they do because they're stronger-willed. But then if they see somebody come in and do it, it completely disproves their sense of self-superiority. So they kind of have to chase that person off to make themselves like feel better. It's kind of like something I've noticed in work. If I do really fucking well and I do so well that I make the people around me not look so good, I never get a call back from those people because they don't want to work with me again. Right?
Yeah.
It's very, very, very fucking similar. If somebody thinks that you're less than them and you
And you do better.
outperform that, they don't want to fucking see you around and they want to push you out however they can. And I almost like my intuition jumps to saying that's what it is.
That's what mine is too. I've noticed that like I mean the people at Planet Fitness have been really cool, like especially the older guys, like they're really impressed by they don't expect for me to like push around like, over, I guess like over like I don't know 185 pounds, but I'm pushing, just over 200 and they're really impressed by my form and everything else, but the people there, it's funny, there's so many people that they could be going after, but they chose to go after me and John. And like the most me and John were doing is like working out together, I guess. I mean, yeah, John is my trainer, but like he's also my friend, and I told him that, like he's my friend, which technically speaking he is. Like I don't even really pay him that much because he helps me out because my family is, baroque. But like
he's a good guy.
and I've known him
Not
since
many
I
of
was a
them out
kid.
there.
Like,
oh yeah.
Well, I mean, we weren't friends at all, but our families knew each other, and me and him used to. I used to see him when I would go to his dad's store. His dad owned a corner store near my old house. And he sometimes he would hand me my stuff, my Spice Girls lollipops and my chips.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how young we were.
Those were the days.
But what should I call it? Like, and they just went after us, and there was a lot of people there that train other people, like outside training. There's teenagers. They already broke. Planet Fitness just got all these plate loaded machines.
Yeah.
And we've had them for maybe I don't even think it's a month. I think it's like 3 weeks, but maybe it's a month now. But they broke the hip thrust machine already. The plate loaded hip thrust machine. They already broke it because there's a bunch of kids back there who hoop and holler and jump around. And it's really funny because the one guy who's not the manager and not the trainer who's giving me and John the most hardest time, they have another guy who works there who's kind of their step and fetch it, yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
Stepford boy. And he watches me like a hawk every time I go in there, and it's really uncomfortable. And then I'm like petty, so I'm always like saying hi to him every time he's like pounding me.
You're that bitch.
To like let him know that like I know what he's doing.
Hi.
And like I just do my thing. And he just lets these people do whatever they want when he's there. And it's funny because like you're hounding my ass when I'm not breaking machines. I clean my shit. I put all my weights back. Like if I'm using like a plate loaded machine, I actually clean, like I will put my plates back on the holder instead of just leaving them on the machine. Like that's how conscientious I am. Not even conscientious people generally do that. I do that because John trained me that way.
Right. It's called
to
gym
reset
etiquette.
the machine for people. Right. To reset the machine for people who, because it's exhausting if you have to keep lifting heavy weights before you start your set. That ruins your set anyway. So Anyway, I went to this really nice gym, and I forgot that trying to bench on a Smith machine versus like on a general regular bench is very different. The Smith machine contains it all for you, but when you're benching, like when you're just like, a free bench, if you will, you have to like keep everything together. You know what I mean? You have to engage multiple muscle groups. And I kind of bit it. Like they had to like bail me 3 times. I had to bail myself out like one time where I had to tip the bar and get the weight off. It was a little embarrassing, but the people there were really nice because it's like a mom and pop gym. And
okay.
like it's actually like a real gym. So people were like, "Hey, next time just ask for a spot, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "I'm sorry, I figured I could do it because I worked on a Smith, but moving forward." But other than that, I killed it. The gym was nice, so I kind of want to go back there. John told me that I'm trying to speed through this. I don't want to make the podcast about my workout because I feel like a douchebag. But but John told me that when he gets back from vacation with his boyfriend, he's gonna try out that same gym that I went to and see how he likes it, see how it works for him, and if he likes it, we'll start going there and training there because they won't mind at all.
It's really fucked up about Planet Fitness. That really sucks.
It is what it is, like, and it's funny because like even the. Mm-hmm.
I don't understand gym superiority because it's like we're all paying money to be here. Like, shut the fuck up.
It's because of ridiculous, unmeetable beauty standards that we have globally. It's not even just an American thing. It's just that we think that the ideal body type is like less than 2% body fat. Men in particular often think that like if they have to flex in order to have a six pack, they think they look wrong. Which is of course ridiculous. It's not even healthy to look like that all the time.
No.
Most because they look at movie stars, they look at models who only train, like a lot of them train a certain way and eat a certain way for a specific shoot or scene or film, whatever. But they're like they can't sleep, they don't feel good. They look physically good, but they feel like absolute crap because half of the time they're dehydrated. And I think that when, especially like Sophia was saying, like a lot of the time, like when I'm there, I'm like match for match, like as far as weight goes, I'm matching guys that are like completely shredded. Like I'm talking like there are guys with like 6-pack abs who are pushing the same weight I am. And sometimes I like, and it's funny because I know that they see me, particularly the Stepford boy that they have watching me when it's at nighttime. And that's what I call him. I call him Stepford boy.
I love it.
And yeah, I know he sees me, and I like it makes him. He's always like watching when I'm working out, so I know he sees what I'm doing. I don't think it's that. I think it's just a matter of like I think watching a fat person have good form, watching a fat person actually be really good at like, and I'm new, like I'm still a novice, but I'm like I found something I'm really good at, like I like it.
Dude,
it's
you're
fun.
fucking killing it.
You have like the build of like those strongman guys, like you could probably do that shit.
That's what I want. Well, I don't want to I don't want to compete, but I do want that,
I could see you like rolling tires around.
So like just as a thing, people often shit on fat people, but what they don't really understand is that people who develop that body type have a really solid fucking frame, and when you build with that, y'all become some of the most strong people on the goddamn planet, bar fucking none.
That is why
there's a reason skinny fuckers like me only get so far. It's because like we're built to be wiry and spend less energy and to have to work for long periods. I can't lift the same shit y'all can. You couldn't necessarily do the same amount of cardio I do because it's fucking ludicrous, but like it's just it's the different trade-offs, right? And y'all, if you like, to every fat person ever who's felt like you couldn't do this shit, it's not true. Even me, for my frame size, right? I was fat when I was younger. I was like 225 pounds, and I was down 150 when I was my leanest. And my frame never got like really big because like your frame doesn't always change. Some of that's just really hardcore genetics. But like, if you got a big frame, you can be one of the strongest fuckers on the planet. Just like follow Scott's example. They're proof that you can do it.
If I can also say too, to lead this into something that like to our greater audience, we've actually discussed this before, but I think it bears repeating. For those of you who are physically able, I think it is a good idea for you to concern yourself with your overall health and well-being. Not only is you taking care of yourself inherently an act of resistance, in that small microcosmic way, but it is also important. You need to be, and I'm not trying to be alarmist, but I do, with 4 years of this barreling down on us, and the accelerationism, it is going to make some of these people and I'm not necessarily even talking about the politicians exactly, but I'm talking about the social implication.
The everyday
It is
interactions that we have with people.
right. It is
Yeah.
possible that those people are going to become very paranoid, and they're going to become more and more afraid of you. And the thing is, we've talked on this podcast before and very recently about not hiding. Hiding will not serve us any good. Hiding will not make this any better. Hiding is exactly what they want, because then they can come up behind us and shank us and no one will listen, right? No one will hear us scream. So, you have to be visible, and it sucks. It does. And I'm sorry to put that on any of you, but it's important that you're healthy so you can take care of yourself, that you can, if need be, God's preserve us from it, but if need be, that you can defend yourself. Honestly, that's a big, it's a big motivator for me. I have quite a few friends. A few of my powerlifter friends live in Canada. And they don't, they're lucky because they're very, they're cis men, queer, but cis men, and they're big boys, and they don't get messed with. But if you are somebody who gets clocked like me very quickly because of a feminine voice and actions, if you are trans or visibly queer, you really need to be able to defend yourself. And just, I mean, and it sucks. I really hate saying this, but I think you can tell the other, these people, they're really angry at us. They really think they're fed so much lies about queer people that to them we're just monsters. You know what I mean? We're out to hurt their children. We're out
We're
to
here to destroy society.
right. Like they're not going to be able to. Right now, they're playing by sort of the social, what is left of the social contract, right?
Yeah.
But as the next 4 year goes on, it's possible that the social contract will completely be obliterated as we know it, and they will no longer be playing by
The rules.
I forget, the rules, if you will, right? The rules. They're no longer going to be playing by the rules of politeness and, like, I'm just going to scream at you from across the street. It can quickly become, we can't move alone in our cities at night, like these kind of things. And these things need to be thought about, unfortunately. We have to be ready. Yeah, I'm sorry to make that so serious, everyone. I really am. But it's just something that I think about often.
It's important.
Yeah, don't be. It's important.
And I kind of wanted to jump off of that too, because there's a lot of, in addition to all of the information that's going around about everything that's being done, executive order number 1 through whatever, all of these things, there is also people fighting against it. And there's also people giving information of what you can do as just a regular Joe Schmo citizen, what you can do to fight this. And a lot of it boils down to it almost seems like a buzzword at this point, build community. And I don't want it to seem like just build community, but like you have to work really, 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 really hard right now. Try your damnedest to establish a real life, face-to-face relationship with someone, some kind of friendship, partnership, whatever it may be, preferably with another queer person. Like that would be ideal, right? Like if you're a queer person, like find your people is kind of what I'm trying to say. We are out there. Look for us in coffee shops. We have a lot of tells, you know what I mean? I don't know if maybe we need to give a gaydar class. I don't know if that's if we have to.
Ooh, that's
you know,
a thing.
No, because
that might. Huh?
Maybe.
It could be like an internal
I don't know if we should be
thing.
broadcasting our secrets like that.
No,
That
no.
part, right.
Like an internal in the Discord kind of discussion, maybe.
Right. Oh no, I totally get that. Yeah.
But
Polite.
it is incredibly important to have a real life meet space connection with at least one other person, if not more. Always try and have it with more people. Because in the event that shit goes down, something horrible, something big, something whatever, the only people who are going to be able to really impact you in that moment of need or whatever it may be is the people that are physically close to you. And it's like I've been in situations with a lot of my internet friends where it's like my life is falling apart, and I'm like, I cannot do, like, there's only so much I can do. You know, there's only so much that I can say in a message or send money or whatever the case is. So it's really, really important to have real world connections. And I was kind of beating myself up reading these posts because of my own white knight syndrome, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to join an organization. And I was like, wait, motherfucker, you have been part of organizations the whole fucking time. Like everything I'm doing with Pagan Pride is now more important than ever, than it ever was. Everything that we're doing with this podcast, like right now, we're broadcasting in wartime, just about. You know, it's a very similar vibe. You know, the work
I'm
that we're
coming
doing
to
here
you from enemy lines here in Canada. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. You know, and what we're doing here is more important than ever, and that is kind of just the thing that I would really like to encourage people. It really is about joining something and being physically around other people and creating those groups, because the only way we're going to combat this overall is if we all just agree, like, yeah, I guess it's okay to hate us now. You can just hate. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I'll take it. No, like we can't do that because they're just going to steamroll us. So that's just kind of my little soapbox there. Build connections and meet space. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Also, I'm gonna make a little rant here. I hear a lot of people saying, you know, oh, this is gonna be a hard 4 years, but we'll get through it. And like, I don't want to deter from the sentiment of we'll get through it, because that is very true. But I hear a lot of people talking about this like it's just gonna be voted away. And I really want people to understand that the divide between Americans and the type of politics that have really captured people, that's not going to get voted away. This divide is supremely deep.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of the divide has come down to people willing to support literal tyrants and what's the word I'm looking for? No, there's a very specific treasonous swine who would literally undermine the nature of their entire country, rob them of their founding constitution, and tell them that they need to accept suffering and hard times for the world to become a good place again. And they get told that by the richest man in the fucking planet, who has unvoted, unmitigated, unrestricted access to things like their SIN number right now and a bunch of other shit. We are experiencing tyranny and just mask off evil fucking fascism to a degree we have not seen since World War II. We're not voting this away. I hate to say this, but there will be violence at the end of this. There will be people getting either rounded up or there will be open conflict. And I think that it does us a disservice if we don't prepare for the inevitable conflict that will come as a result, you know, because these supporters aren't just going to magically accept us once we win a vote, you know.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
no, not at all. It's just like well, look, I mean, the women's rights aren't even in like the Constitution. It was just added on as an amendment, so it could be taken off at any point. And so I think a lot of this, what this comes in the sense of like everything will not go back to the way it was. We also, in addition to getting rid of all this fascist shit, it's going to take decades because this is it's a sickness of the society. Like these people want it, you know. So it's going to take a long time to undo, like to deprogram them and have them realize you are worth more. You are worth like you deserve healthcare, you deserve a home, you deserve comfort, and you deserve freedom. You deserve all of these things. And so does that person and that person and that person. Like no one is excluded from you deserve X thing. And
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it's like, and I don't like those like I could, there's so many people that I don't like. You know, like I really try and get along with everyone just about that I interact with, but I'm like, there's some motherfuckers I just, man, get fucked, you know? But also, if that person got hit by a bus, I would hope that like that wouldn't bankrupt them, you know, to like get care. So it's like, yeah, that's what keeps the fight equal, right? You know, we all have the same equal shit, and then we can argue about politics later. You know, like we can argue about that shit later. It just yeah, I was kind of going on a little rant there. I kind of lost my train of thought. But the point is, I'm angry.
No,
I was gonna say, or like, fuck, in Philly, get hit by a plane at this rate. That was crazy.
Also, that like
like
that was the other thing. A fucking plane crash. I grew up in that neighborhood. If anyone saw that plane crash, I grew up right there. Like right there.
I go to that Dunkin' frequently. Crazy, literally there's an apartment complex that's right next to that mall where Jay also used to live, and that burned down like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
Under
weird.
suspicious circumstances. And now a plane just crashed in the middle of Compton Avenue. It was a medvac unit that had a kid on it, and all 6 people on the plane.
Yeah.
All 6 on the plane died, and 1 on the ground as well. But there were some this little boy literally dived on his sister to save her, and
he survived, I believe, didn't he?
He survived. Yes, he's doing good. He had a whole
damn, that is some real karma.
It was cray. I have never seen anything like that. Crazy enough, we weren't home. We were over in Jersey when it happened. But Compton Avenue was closed. Compton and Boulevard was closed for God, at least 4 or 5 days, just cleaning up everything.
All I can remember is a text from Katie, a plane crash at the mall, and I was like, "Fucking what? Like what does that even mean? Like what are you saying to me right now?" Like.
That's bad.
There is a lot of.
It's just so out of fucking left field, right?
Right, and the airport that they took off from was minutes away from that mall, and there's so much checks that go into that, and the fact that they were all from Mexico, and it just seems really like like the conspiracy theory bed is ripe. Because like how does it
there's been a copious amount of plane crashes. Like there was one over in I think it was like the Philippines the other day, and it was another fucking Black Hawk helicopter just like flying right into shit, right?
And like what I mean by it's suspicious in that they're Mexican, not in the fact that like, oh, it was an attack by Mexico. No, that's not what I'm insinuating. What I'm insinuating is did some MAGA fucknut rig the plane? That's the conspiracy theory route that I go down.
We know that they'll stoop to no bounds. Why wouldn't they rig a plane to fucking kill people?
A medical plane of all things.
Yeah. It's shockingly and disturbingly on brand, and that's the bad part about that.
Right.
hard facts. They are still investigating. They're investigating the cause. They have the black box, but they have not. The NTSB or anyone has not released a cause for the crash. It literally took off 8 minutes and then just fell out of the sky, going like 285 miles an hour.
It's also just so tragic that it was a kid and his mom.
Yeah. Oh, obviously. Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that part I won't lie. Like I didn't know at first. I mean, it was obvious. It's tragic regardless. But to think it was a sick kid trying to get to a hospital to get better.
Well, so here's what makes it awful. Sorry, grab your tissues. It was a little girl. She received the treatment. She was on her way home.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah. Not to twist that
right
knife,
in the feels.
but yeah. Ouch.
It's just.
I would like off this planet.
Yeah.
But I would like to. Sorry.
No, if you could, I was gonna say there is more news on the activism front. So if that's what you were going to talk about.
Yes, I panic messaged you. I couldn't find the email, and I found it. Thank God. So I wanted to take a moment. This happened on January 21st. Obviously, me and Jay had our Pagan Pride email. We received an email along with a lot of other prominent pagan event organizers, just well-known names within the pagan community, from Oberon Zell. I'm sure most people who are listening to this podcast know who he is. And he actually attached a very lengthy. I'm going to do my best to summarize because we're not going to be here all day reading this whole thing.
We'll link it in Discord.
We will link it in the Discord. I actually messaged him on Facebook and I was like, hey, is it cool? Like I talk about this on my podcast, and obviously he was very ecstatic. He's like, yes, please share it. I'm like, I'm talking to Brown South, but yeah, that's just me. But yeah, so there is this, it is a pagan game plan for the Trump administration and Project 2025. I believe this can also be found on Oberon's blog page, which we can link as well.
That's what I'll link.
Link his blog page. Exactly. So the first part, by the numbers, there is a great deal to be said regarding the election. He goes through the stats. Total population is 345 million. Of those 345, 245 are eligible to vote. 161 of those 245 actually voted, which is 66%. 83 people who were eligible weren't even registered to vote. 154 million ballots were cast. 95% of registered voters, 63% of the voting eligible population. 92 million Americans, or about 37% of the country's voting eligible population, did not vote. 77 million voted for him and 74 million voted for her. So really, if you look at those numbers, it was a razor thin margin, which I know a lot of people are looking into because it just doesn't fucking make sense. Like
it taste right.
It doesn't taste right. The numbers don't add up. So basically he beat her only by 1% of the popular vote.
Yeah.
Who knew that voter suppression had a fucking effect? And illegally purging the voter rolls and throwing out ballots and deliberately spoiling ballots that had come in.
Oh no.
I literally just got into an argument with a Trump supporter on my old school counselor's page. My school counselor, she's awesome, and she was like, she's been feral. She's like done being nice to people.
Oh yeah.
And this douchebag was like on her comments, like, like, what did Biden ever do? And Trump is making everything better, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, number one, I was like, he didn't like he was that was another thing. He was acting like Trump won in a landslide. And I was like, that's not what happened. I was like, he did the same thing.
1%.
He did the same thing. They said it's comparable to who? I forget what it was. I almost wanted to say Who was the president? We were in high school. Was
Bush
that
Gore.
Bush? Huh?
Bush Gore.
Yeah.
It was said that
Like
Al
he pretty
Gore,
much it was
a rigged
comparable.
election, and Al Gore
Yeah.
should have contested it, but he didn't.
Right. Like it was comparable to that.
Yeah.
And he really hasn't done anything like this win was like nothing spectacular. It wasn't groundbreaking, and I said that to him. I was like, I could literally show it to you if you'd like. And he just laughed at my comment.
It
But
looks
whatever.
groundbreaking because on election, because of the way the electoral college works, and you're looking at the map. And once the candidate wins the state, it just turns that color. And so you're looking at this map, and you're just seeing red everywhere, and these little pockets of blue. And you're going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and you're like freaking out, and it's designed to be that way. So, but yeah, that's part of the psychological part of it. You're saying, Sophia?
If there's one thing I've learned in this past 2 to maybe 4 months is that you can lead a motherfucking horse to water, but you can never make that prick drink.
And even if you force their head in
I've
to
literally
drink,
said those words to Darian.
They will not
they'll just drown.
fight you. They will pull their head out. Yeah. Like
they'll just drown. They'll just be like, oh,
look what you did to me. The deepest it should be you're the fucking horse, because it's like the truest thing I've seen in a fucking eon. Even though I love You're the Snake because I'm a snake, and LOL, I just aged myself because that means I'm 36. God kill me, I'm 40 in 4 years.
40 is
but I'm still military service for 4 years, which means that if Trump invades Canada, I will be joining the volunteers if I survive the initial barrage.
Oh God,
because I live in Toronto.
Yeah,
you do.
There are a couple other main categories in back to Oberon's letter. So there are a couple other main categories in the letter that kind of outline like a plan, and a lot of it is based off of, if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of it is based off of interfaith outreach with other Christian organizations. Obviously not the Christian nationalist movement, obviously, since they're like not what we're about, but there are a lot of Christian groups out there that are like, this religious freedom thing is very incredibly fucking important for all fucking religions. They are out there and they do exist, and it's actually a lot of it's a good amount of them. The Christian nationalists are just loud, but I don't think they're in the majority.
Reverend Bud should be a folk saint. I just said it.
Hell yeah.
Fucking right. Also, can I tell y'all something that's totally ADHD on another side point?
Yes.
I picked up a pair of waterproof, like swimmers, bone induction headphones because they're on sale for like, it was like $63 or something like that before tax. And they're open ear. And the coolest thing about these fucking things is I can lay in the bathtub with them. You can't have like the water too hot because that's like one of the warnings on it. You can't have like soap in the water yet. So like, yeah, if you're going to like wash your hair and clean yourself up, do it after. But like, I'm telling you, having bone induction headphones that are waterproof and having them like reverberate in the bathtub and create like a full fucking like warm, it's so cool. And it kind of like revolutionized meditation for me recently. If any of y'all got ADHD like me, I know y'all can motherfucking struggle to meditate, right? But there's a thing called hemisync, and it's where they play a tone that's nearly similar in one ear. So they'll put a tone that's like 100 hertz in one ear and a tone that's like 110 or 120 in the other. And then you get a 10 to 20 oscillation, and you're not actually hearing that noise, but your brain will start doing the woo, 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 woo noise in your head. I'm sure you've heard it before, right? Yeah. That means that it's actually activating, and that's your hemispheres essentially playing catch with the signal really coolly. And I've found that like doing that kind of meditation in a bathtub is delightful. And if like the tones aren't quite that good on the set you get, you can work with something else. But I'm telling y'all, like, binaural meditation is the shit if you struggle with focus.
That's really cool.
I had a pair of
Yeah.
bone induction headphones at one point. They were kind of a cheap pair, so they weren't like the greatest. I
Mine
would
are a
like
cheap
to
pair
look...
too. Let's be real; they're under $100, right?
Yeah, I think the one I got was like $40 or something like that. They were
Mhm.
useful because I wanted headphones when I was like mowing the lawn outside, like weed whacking. Like I wanted to listen to
Mhm.
music, but I didn't want to cut out my hearing like around me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out really well.
They're phenomenal for that. I actually love having them for work so that like I can have them on constantly and take phone calls and not have music when stuff's going. But when
Shit, I
I'm
might get
bored
a pair
on
for
guard
work.
duty, I can be listening to music. Yeah, they're really fucking worth it. If you can find a swimmer's pair and it's not too much more expensive, get the swimming waterproof pair. And if you have a bathtub, I'm telling you, it'll change your bathing world.
I want a pair of the bone induction ones. I
Yeah,
was
they're
actually
fun.
listening to a surgeon who only uses those while he's doing surgery,
Mhm.
and they look really cool.
They're
But of course,
very
he's a surgeon,
nice.
so they were very expensive.
They're very nice because like if you're moving around and like I'm sure you can relate to this, Scott, like if you're doing a set, you don't want really big headphones because they fall off sometimes. But
Yeah.
like earbuds and bone inductions sit really nicely behind your ear. They
Mhm.
stay in the ear really fucking well. And I can like do hardcore physical labor and these things are like stuck on my head all fucking day. So like I cannot tell you how much it's a game changer if you like headphones. Like bone induction headphones are the shit. They're not going to give you audio engineering quality like over the ear ones will. They're not meant to. It's not the point, you know? Just like earbuds aren't meant to give you audio engineering quality. They're meant to not be a pain in the ass to wear.
That would be nice. I would love a pair of those because I've actually been going to the gym without headphones because I only have my over-the-ear Bluetooth and I can't stand
Well,
them.
it's the slow season for waterproof stuff. So check any services that you might purchase from because like mine were like 67% off or something. I got them like really fucking cheap.
Oh, cool. I'll look for that then. Definitely.
Yeah.
Love a deal.
Like if you do Amazon, check your Amazon. If you do Best Buy, check your Best Buy.
Definitely. I definitely will. Oh, God. Anybody else feel that like general like sort of like the exhaustion?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of a reflection of the state of the world right now. I think there's a thing that I really like to talk about. It's like as above, so below, right? So like we like to think that it's just our world that's discordant and in conflict. The fucking heavens are in chaos and conflict too right now, right?
Yes.
They have to be because we are, yeah. It's a yep.
Mm-hmm. As above, so below, right? That's a thing that we really don't understand very often. We separate ourselves out of the universe like gods are greater than us, but they're just a reflection of us on a higher scale, right? We're intrinsically linked. One world affects the other, and vice versa. You can't separate the two.
This is a thing that I brought up to a friend of mine about the gods, right? Particularly the Nordic Germanic heathen ones, right? Because they are unfortunately co-opted a lot by some hate groups out there. And in World War II, they were co-opted.
And you're like reading
hatefully.
my mind.
So
we had this exact conversation, a friend of mine this week. Please keep going.
My thought was this, right? So like us as I'm just gonna go good guys versus bad guys for the sake of making this very simple to kind of put it down. So like good guys, us, right? People like us that are like, we want everyone to be cool and happy and fed and everything's chill and here's our gods and, you know, whatever. So the people that are worshiping these, you know, Hail Thor and Odin and all this, like in a good way, you know, not like in a oppress other people way. But there are plenty of people out there who are like, Hail Odin, kill the fucking gays, and like, you know, and they're still worshiping them. They are giving them offerings, they are doing workings to them, they are feeding their gods, the gods. What is sort of a thing is that I don't like. We can't say, as us as the good guys, that the gods are not helping the bad guys if they are receiving worship. Does you kind of know what I'm getting at this? Like,
Well,
it's a weird thing that I'm kind of having in my head, because I'm like, they're actively using the gods for bad shit, and we're trying to appeal to the gods for good shit. And it's
the
like,
thing is,
where does
I don't know if the gods actually will help them, though, right?
Right.
Because like those Norse gods were like explicitly queer and gender bendery from the jump, right? Like Loki literally turns into a horse to get fucked by Odin to give him a fucking steed, right?
Yeah, like, you know, yeah, because like I know a lot of that is in their lore. So like, I don't know. It's just the things that kind of keep me up at night. Like, can we say that they're not? Like, we can't say for sure that they're not.
If I could also interject here as well, like from a historical standpoint, in the ancient world, including in the ancient Norse world, you could be killed for being inhospitable.
Right, like hospitality was like a huge thing.
Right, hospitality. If you were not hospitable in the ancient world, including ancient Rome and Greece, you would be killed for that.
Right, because it was a big offense.
I think that I get where you're coming from. I do, and I think that I just so happen to think that the gods are a bit more, how do I put this? I guess I could say moral, than we think that they are. And the reason I say this is because something Sophia said too that I could pull here. They are a reflection of us at a higher level.
Right.
And that reflection and that reflection of us would be fully self-actualized, right? And self-actualized people don't do what they're doing, right? Now one would argue, well, then how do you justify a curse? Well, here's the thing with cursing. You know, in my tradition, there's a couple of things about curses that are unjustified. One, they don't hold as well. Unjustified curses are really easy to get off, if you know what you're doing. And then you could do something really simple and they'll wash right off. Also, too, if you do an unjustified curse at somebody with really strong ancestral connections, you're going to get your ass handed to you. Whereas justified work, like us using war magic against these people, is not going to come back on us because they're actively attempting to circumvent our ability to exist, right?
Right.
But I think that the gods are much more in favor of people who are, for one, not making their okay, you know those people who are like, I do curses for people, pay me and I'll curse your ex.
Right.
I really doubt that the spirits, the gods, the saints, the familiars are particularly interested in super being involved in that when that's all that they do. I think that the spirits are interested in practitioners who are interested in self-actualization, who are interested in not wallowing in their own emotional pain, and not, who are interested not to say that you have to be healed outright, but they are interested in people who want to put in the good work to better themselves, to move forward, to self-actualize, to be a better version of themselves than they were the day before, and not necessarily be competitive with others, but be competitive with themselves. You know what I mean? I want to outpace my own self, and I want to lift other people up with me. And I think the gods would be more interested in that, because I think that that's how the gods, and much more than ourselves, because I think that I'm better than I used to be, because I work very hard at it, but I'm not like a god, right? Like they're much more, I think, self-actualized than we are. They've reached, in Stoicism, I think they call it apotheosis. In Stoicism, they call it apotheosis. And I think
apotheosis,
whatever it is, that I think that, essentially they've reached that. You know what I mean? Because even many of our gods are once people. They were deified people who, did something incredible, selfless and whatnot. I'm not saying they were perfect either, but maybe you don't have to be perfect exactly to reach that state of existence. But I personally think that the gods don't work with them. But I also will say this to you.
Mm.
I think that to further along with as above, so below, I think that there are beings out there, whether I have names for them or not. One might easily call them demons, I suppose, if that's your vibe. And I wouldn't judge you for it. But who would be more interested in the chaos. And I think, and a lot of occultists have talked about this, where these beings will take on the name. Will sort of be like, yes, I'm Odin. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
you
Thor.
can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, totally. And while they're
Yeah.
sitting there, leading you
Not
down into the
yeah.
depths of your own depravity. But
Oldest
the
trick in the
problem
book.
is, right, and what the problem with that is that they're not going to stop them from being aggressive. They're going to keep fueling them and
Right.
kind of being like, yes, yes, kill those people that are different from you,
Yeah.
destroy them. You know what I mean? And it's because it fuels them. It fuels those things taking the shape. These sort of I know in voodoo they call them jab, jabs. These sort of malicious spirits that take the form of the Loa,
Yep.
and
Oh.
and they'll come in and you think you're summoning the Loa, but they're actually these malicious beings that like to lie to you. And it's funny because really, in the Western occult tradition, like again, we would just call them demons, right?
Right.
So I totally like. It's funny because I totally know what you're talking about, Jay, because I have also been there, thought about, and I think that
This
this
is
is where like.
also, I will say
Mhm.
this, it's also spurred on because I finally watched American Gods. It's something that I've been wanting to watch for a long time. To circumvent giving Gaiman money, I rented the DVDs from the library and watched it that
What's
way.
up?
That's a good idea.
But it's just one of those pagan media things. I was like, I really want to watch this. Like, everyone talks about it, and let me watch it. And there was a scene in which Mr. Wednesday, who we know as Odin, there's a scene from World War II, and there's this, this young Nazi party dude, and he's like, hey, and he gets real chummy with them because the theory that's being posed in that show in particular is worship, attention is attention. Gods need worship in order to sustain their energy, and so, I don't care who it's coming from, I'm getting worship. So that was sort of what made me think about that. I was like, well, is that how they function? So I was just,
Yeah, but
kind of one of those
Gaiman's
thinking
also
out
a bit of a
loud.
prick.
Also that, and I know that, like, it's a work of fiction being
100.
written by Gaiman. So, but yeah, it was just one of those thinking out loud sort of moments that I had. I'm like, is it naive of us to think that they're not playing both sides? I don't know.
I think I totally understand the occult perspective that you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there is obviously validity in that, because it comes from a lot of that comes from like the Jungian archetypal perspective, which is useful in my own animism. But I do think that even with Jung, for instance, like in the Liber Novus, or the Red Book, when he states that in his experience with the archetypes and his experience that they're conscious outside of himself, they were leading him to things, right? They were leading him to answers about his own life, about his own experiences, and they were sort of maybe they weren't necessarily always warm. They may not be always the kindest of beings, but they're not ill-intentioned, right? They
Right.
were leading him to answers that he needed to find in himself for his own emotional betterment. Um, I think that do I think that there are malicious entities out there? 110%, right? We've talked about this, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a reason
There
why
are.
we need to protect ourselves. We need to, fight. That's why that's been the part of the practitioner's job, regardless of what culture it is,
To
for
fight off
centuries.
evil spirits or
Right. I
malicious
mean,
spirits.
that's part of our job.
I mean, shit. There's a reason when you're teaching 101, after you teach people the most basic concept of how to gather energy and how to visualize and focus, the next immediate thing you teach them is defense. Like just putting up shields. It's like the fucking second thing you do, you know? It's that intrinsic.
So, but no, I have had that exact same thought, Jay, like verbatim. And it did make me nervous, but I realized it was funny. It came from that conversation about people were discussing whether the gods care about you or not. And it was funny because that conversation went off the rails and people started, oh, they're cold and dejected and they don't give a damn, which is a complete misunderstanding. We've talked about this as well before, where we talk about how pagan theology is quite different from Abrahamic theology in that our gods, though incredibly powerful, are not omnipresent, which is why we give offerings to sort of, one, get their attention, two, to sort of get them to be motivated to help. But
because they have jobs, like they have functions in the universe, like they have a function for a specific reason.
Right. And I think that I genuinely think that the gods do care. The mythology never states that they were uncaring. The mythology states that, they had people they really liked and people they liked a little bit more, maybe a little less, but they still cared. And the mythologies are just stories, right? We know that our mythologies are beautiful archetypal stories.
And particularly with there's a lot of Norse mythology in particular, but a lot of it was written down by Christians at the time. So it was collected, but also written through their lens a bit too. So we have to deconstruct and absorb all at the same time.
Right. So I genuinely think that that they care. I think that the gods, whatever they're working with, I mean, even if you do see it as, because Wednesday in that show, that was his name, he was like the war aspect of Odin.
Yeah, he
right?
was. That was his whole goal. He wanted a war. Yeah.
Right. So even if you were to see it in that way, it would still be a god of chaos, if you will, or an evil god, right? Who is still, to use those terms loosely, and here, but an evil god, an adversarial god, who wants to cause harm.
Yeah.
And I think that it's the same thing. Like I've always said to my mom, I think the God that you're praying to is different from the God that a Christian nationalist prays to.
Yes, if I may, the Christian nationalist is actually praying to the demiurge Yaldabaoth. It consistently through Gnosticism is portrayed as depicting itself as God, right?
So exactly what we were talking about,
I've ever exactly that to a T. Like they have multiple names for it. Samael, Yaldabaoth, it's the fucking demiurge, right? They're praying to the false god.
Yep. Because even and it's funny because I tell my mother all the time. My mother is always so a little guilty at times, but she's proud of it at the same time. Like my mother doesn't believe in hell. My mother doesn't believe that she believes that magic is like just a part of God's promise. Like my mom is like a heretic as hell. So
she sounds very almost like a follower of like the Gospel of Aradia. Like it's almost what it sounds like.
In a lot of ways, because she's old school Italian.
Yeah,
and the Italians kind of were like, well, Catholicism, but we had our thing, and our thing worked. So we're gonna keep our thing.
She sounds Gnostic as fuck, because in Gnosticism, magic is real, but it is like a function of the divine. Right.
And that's how my mom sees it. And yeah. So I always tell her, I'm like, whatever you're praying to is a lot more real
than whatever the fuck they're praying to.
Can I share y'all a really synchronous experience that I forgot about and I wasn't going to talk about on this podcast, but like, fuck it, you reminded me, so that's a cue too. I'm not fucking religious, right? You're not over here hearing me saying I talk to God or conjure angels or none of that shit, right? I'm ex-Catholic, okay? Have any of y'all heard of a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes?
No.
You might have seen it advertised because it's number 4 in podcasts right now.
I think I've heard of it. I think I've heard of it. I think.
It's this bombshell podcast that by Kai Dickens going around trying to prove and actually proving the fact that nonverbal autistic people actually can communicate via telepathy. They just struggle with certain bodily functions to communicate, and that parents who've like encouraged their nonverbal kids to communicate via spelling, which they call spellers.
Rue could confirm.
They've found that these kids can not just like read people's minds, but like find numbers, like read fucking books through other people's eyes. Like it gets really nebulous and spiritual. And it was like really deeply synchronistic for me. Like I got it recommended by so many different places. When I finally sat down and watched it, I was like, this has to have been around for a while, right? It's like not even been out for half a year. And I was like, okay. And it really fucked me up because basically every single thing in it aligns with everything I've been through in my life, even like the really woo and out there shit. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit much, because like I've literally had like a telepathic experience with friends when I was on acid, and like when I was a kid, my siblings and I would literally practice reading each other's minds with a game where we'd like draw a card out of a deck of cards and then try to send the image through our eye to the other person's eye to see what it was and try and get the image in their pupil. And we got stupendously good at it. We'd guess soup first and then we'd guess the card, right? Like it was fucking shocking how good we got at that shit. But we stopped for whatever reason. And so I was getting close to finishing this podcast and they're talking about like God and divinity and all that. And I'm like, well, this really does actually line up with everything I've seen with like how the universe works, right? And I go to sleep and I have the weirdest dream. There's like a bunch of us and everybody down here is like tied to a version of themselves that's like non-physical. And what you do here affects the person up there, and what the person up there does affects you down here. And you're like mirrors of each other. Neither is greater or lesser. It's like light and shadow, you know? Like you can't have shadow without light. Anyways, and it was like very interesting. And the more that you would like get in sync with your other self by like making the two of you really overlap in your behavior and like almost become one, the more that you are able to access your spiritual abilities to do these really intense things that are basically like depersonalization magic. Like, for example, how the Matrix describes bending the spoon by becoming the spoon. That's actually what I call matrix casting in a certain technique, right? It's depersonalization is what it is. Anyways, towards the end of the dream, something very, very, very fucking strange happened. I like woke out of the dream, but I wasn't awake. I was still completely asleep, but I was in my body and in my visual cortex, and I couldn't move it. And it wasn't sleep paralysis; it was different. And I saw this like being, and it communicated to me, and it looked like multiple layers of stained glass that was all golden in like different patterns that were triangular, but they didn't have like hard edges between the plates. It was like just perfectly smooth, and they were in all these varying different shades of translucent gold, and there was like several different plates, and it would like move and shift to like communicate with me. It wouldn't use words, and I was like,
it sounds like
what are you? And it
sounds like something out of a Destiny raid, kind of.
It really sounds like something non-human for sure, right? Yeah. And I was like, what are you? And it like did this symbol to me, and it like displayed divine geometry. And I was like, are you like tied to whatever God is, or like that archetype of God? And I shit you fucking not, it shifted its entire structure to just do nothing but sevens. It was like an infinite fractaline pattern of sevens radiating out everywhere that I saw. And I was like,
well,
I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yeah, it seems like a yes.
And it was so poignant. Like when I woke up, it stayed with me, and I wrote this out on a server that I'm on. And one of my friends on that server also chimed in saying like, yo, I've actually had the same experience before. And one time when my dog woke me up out of that dream to take them for a walk, it stayed with me, and I could see it when I was awake for a little bit. So like, I don't know what it was, but like I tapped into something that night, right? So like, yeah, I don't know. Divine energy certainly exists, and so do divine beings. It sounds very New Age woo-woo and very like Catholic Christian, but like when you come across it unmistakably, you can't really deny it without telling lies, right? Just the same way that I've literally experienced those parasitic entities that are like pure fucking evil that want to like pin you down and feed off of your fear. And I can describe what those ones feel like. They feel like an inky black resinous blotch of tar that moves and is sentient, almost kind of like the venom parasite, but slower, right? Or the venom symbiote from Spider-Man. And like in the trip where that one actually was feeding off my fear, it like zeroed in on me when I was in like a radiant state of fear because I was trying to keep myself together. That's when you're like you're completely overcome with fear. And it like latched onto the back of like my head and like expanded around, and like I could literally feel with each wave of fear that I had, it would pulse in response like it was drinking it. It was so fucking gross, and I didn't really have anything in the moment to deal with it, so I just let it feed and move on. But like I've definitely seen that there's some dark shit out there that exists that loves to feed off of misery, that ties into what Scott was also talking about with like these things presenting like they're gods and stuff so that they can sow more misery in the world to feed on, right? Because that is their food.
Especially because humans and people that are rediscovering pagan religions or pre-Christian religions and the religions of and beliefs of their people, like a lot of we don't have those same we're relearning how to have those connections. And so when we have, I know people don't like the term baby witches or whatever, but when you have these new people coming in and they're like, I'm reaching out to Athena, and it's like, are you sure? that's who you're talking to. So yeah, it's I guess I feel better knowing that they're evil things impersonating gods, and that the gods themselves are not dicks, intrinsically dicks.
And also, you're not alone in your thought process.
Right.
Like, that's the one thing I wanted to stress to you was like, I 110%
went
have
there.
like almost verbatim have said what you said to myself. So like, you're not alone in your thought at all.
Well,
but what was I gonna say? Oh, real quick too, and then we could, because I also have to wrap up. But
yeah, we're at like an hour and 30.
I know, because I have D&D in a couple minutes. But
yeah, I have psionics class in half hour, not even.
Sophia's story reminded me of something that it's kind of like I think I've talked about it early on in our podcast, but it unlocked the memory again for me. I one time, and this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, but I know it happened, so I don't care what other people think. I had an entire conversation in telepathy with a friend of mine because we were in a situation where we couldn't talk, and my friend was really good at it, and he started the conversation. But one of the things I realized about telepathy is like you have to be able to hold it. Like you have to. There's a certain. I don't know how to put it. Telepathy is a very bizarre experience. I know, like
it's almost
generally
like,
speaking, talking this kind of thing.
Like a string in a tin can kind of thing.
It's surreal.
But it's like you have to maintain the focus and connection.
And it kind of it's like, firstly, like there's this weird like ringing that's happening like under your hearing. Like it's almost like it's happening like in your inner ear, but you can't really hear it, but it's like a hum. And then all of a sudden it's like tuning in, like like, you know, when like the old radios would tune in, it's like a like
yeah.
a weird whoop, and that happens, and then suddenly you can hear the person communicating. Well, I remember, and the reason why I know it happened was me and this friend, we were having this conversation, and suddenly we were alone again, and we picked up verbally right where we left off, and we like nothing was missed. But it was funny because like we both kind of like like we both kept talking like confidently, but also like kind of like, is this really happening?
Like looking
And
at each
then
other like, what?
right, and like we knew that we just did that, but it was still like, did we just do that? You know, like,
Yeah.
did that just really happen? And like, you know, which is another way of knowing that you're not completely out of your mind, because if you were crazy, you don't know that you're crazy, right?
Right, yeah.
You wouldn't be able to perceive the craziness of it. But it was an incredibly surreal experience, and you don't have to believe me, and no, not you, but like the greater you, the
Yeah.
royal you, don't have to believe
Y'all.
me, but it definitely happened, and it was really weird.
It is so surreal when it happens, isn't it?
It really is.
Like when I did it with my friend on acid, and you can say it's less valid because we're on acid, but do tell me how I managed to accurately get the exact sentence he was saying just because I was on a drug. And then he was so shocked he fell off a fucking chair and stuttered, how in the fuck did you do that? So it's
Right.
real. And Scott, I'm begging you, please go watch telepathy tapes,
Okay.
or like listen to it. It's a podcast.
I definitely will. I'll definitely give it a listen as soon as
Yeah,
I
I
can.
was I was looking at the chat here. Kai also seems very interested in telepathy tapes. Seems like they also have some experience, you know, kind of being the mouthpiece for a nonverbal sibling.
So, real talk. Oh wow, yeah, Kai. If you have a nonverbal sibling, 100% check out telepathy tapes, because according to it, basically every nonverbal autistic person is communicating telepathically, but doesn't necessarily have credence or like connection with it. Real talk. I even tried just reaching out in my local area to see if there was somebody I could talk to who had it, and I had a very distinct conversation with somebody who popped in my head at one point. I haven't had it since, and she hasn't been able to show back up. And like towards the end of it, I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is really real though, because like a voice in your head you can always just keep talking to, you know what I mean? She's
Right,
like,
yeah.
okay, well, bye then. And just like left. And I was like,
oh damn.
what? And I like tried to make it happen again. Like it happened tons of times in my head before, and it was just silent, and I couldn't like recreate that voice. And I was like, what the fuck was that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a very bizarre phenomenon, and I wish it wasn't a phenomenon. Like, I wish it was something that like I could do right now. You know what I mean? Like, I wish it was something that I could just like
So
focus and
real
call
talk,
down to Darian. You know?
this is why I want people to actually watch the podcast, because even in the course of the podcast, they were saying that the kids' powers have gotten stronger just by the podcast being out and people believing in them and believing in telepathy more. So like it's kind of proving consensus reality theory of like how if we all believe a certain thing in reality, it reinforces it, right? But if
Yeah.
we're all open to the possibilities of stuff, the more people who are paying attention, the more people see it, right? And like there's a direct tie between autism and this phenomenon, and like apparently even the kids who are telepathic are constantly saying this is like people's default state. Everybody can do this. We learn out of doing it based on societal programming.
Yeah,
It's
that's what a lot
So
of
you can do it, and you can get back to it. And if you're autistic, you have an advantage.
It is interesting too, because this is maybe my last thought, because I got to pee, and I have one of my DMD players are here already.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because there's a conversation that we talk a lot about in the occult and in psychism about pain and the connection to the psychic world, like emotional turmoil, trauma, and how, and it's interesting. The reason I'm making the connection here is that trauma happens to the body, right? Like trauma is not just something that is this amorphous thing. Like you can see a traumatized brain.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of people that are interested in psychism, that are interested in sorcery, they often find themselves traumatized, autistic neurodiverse or non-autistic neurodiverse, and having very acute psychic or paranormal experiences. So I do think that that's also very interesting to hear correlations that we've made previously and just keep expanding upon. But I do have to
Yeah.
scoot because I do have to pee. But
You are a delight to chat with every time, Scott.
I
Thank
am
you so
so
much for
happy.
being
I
here.
miss
I
you
love
all.
you.
I miss you all
Love
so much. I
you.
love you guys.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, we've been blathering on for a while, hour and 40, but it's okay because
Yep.
we missed like 2 weeks in a row.
It's exactly what I was gonna say, yeah. So like we have
Yeah.
some shout outs for the coffee, don't we?
Yes, for the Ko-fi, which I realized the last time I did that shout out, I borked it. I called it Patreon. We're not on fucking Patreon. We're on Ko-fi.
Yeah.
That's where it is. But anyway, whatever. It's Ko-fi.
Coffee,
we do is it coffee or I think whatever. Coffee, Ko-fi.
Kofi.
So that's if you
Oh,
want
just being silly.
to throw some money at us, we do have 3 tiers on there. One of our tiers that's pretty cool is called our Hail Satan tier. And basically what that is, you can just give a hail, a shout out to whatever it is. It could be a business, a product, a message, a gathering that's coming up. It could be fuck Trump, whatever the fuck it is, whatever you want to hail, you can do that for $6.66 a month. If we do not vibe with the message of your hail, we will not read it. So don't be a dick. But
Hell, if you want, I'll sing a short song, no longer than 30 seconds of your choice. Give me the verse and give me the song, and I'll sing it for you.
there you go. For $6.66 a month. We do have a subscriber to that tier. That is Tink. Tink has been a long time subscriber to that tier, and Tink always wants us to keep the people of Palestine in our thoughts. There is a ceasefire at the moment. Gods only know what will happen to that area of the world, but at least for now, the active killing has stopped. So yes, thank you, Tink.
Fucking Christ.
Thank you, Tink, for
Free
being a
Palestine.
supporter
Thank you, Tink.
and always having that message for everyone to remember. We will in the Discord. If you're listening to this and you're not in the Discord, I suggest you jump in there. We have a Facebook group. It exists, and we never fucking use it. So really, the only place to talk to us in any sort of direct capacity is Discord, and that's the way it is. I would suggest going in there. What we're going to do, we touched on Oberon Zell's letter and sort of like call to action for the pagan community. We're going to post that in the Discord because I think it's really worth taking a read through. And it's really a way to kind of just bring everyone together under one sort of vision of how we need to work together. Whether you consider yourself pagan or not, you fall under the umbrella, even if you're just a general fucking chaos magician occultist. The pagan community still welcomes you, and we still hear you and feel you. So please consider yourself a part of our community because we consider you a part of our community. So with that, I think that's all the things that we had to say. We're going to post that shit in the Discord. We're going to be talking more in the Discord. And for now, I guess we will sign off here, and we will see you all in the next one.
I'll give us a quick outro song to sing us out. Like a virgin, touched for the very first time.
Yeah.
Like a virgin. Go ahead and kill it.
Okay.